Oh my goodness, I listened to it on audiobook and it was so fantastic. I think I finished it in like 2 days, if anything, which is a lot considering that it was during the work week. Hey guys, welcome back. So I actually came across a book tag by Rincey Reads that I thought was super interesting. I thought it was appropriate because we are coming to an end of a decade and it's actually called the 10-Year Book Challenge, and I thought it would be a fun one for me to do just so that I can kind of take a trip down memory lane and naturally bring you guys with me because it's fun for me to think about what I was reading back then and how my reading habits have changed. Let me know if you have done this challenge. Feel free to consider this you being tagged. That way, if you want to do the book tag, you're free to do it. So without further ado, let's jump right in. I've got the questions on my phone. And yeah, I think there's only 10 of them, which is appropriate because it is a 10-year challenge and there are 10 questions. So the first question is, what was your favorite book in 2009? And first of all, let's just say God bless Goodreads and God bless the fact that they have been around for so long because I am very type A and I have lists by year of which books that I read for every year. So it wasn't hard for me to remember which books I read back in 2009. I only had to go back and look at my list for 2009. So super easy. Okay, so my favorite book in 2009 was actually The Interpreter of Maladies by Jhumpa Lahiri. I probably have mentioned this a while ago in one of my videos talking about my favorite books, but this one essentially is an anthology written by an Indian American author, and each of the stories follows the day-to-day lives of either Indians living in India or Indian Americans as they've come over, and it's such a powerful read, and I believe it was one of the first anthologies that I had read, and it just, oh my gosh, it just blew everything that I knew about anthologies out of the water. So that was my favorite book at the time, though I do want to say that it was actually published in 2000. When I was going through my list, I was trying to find books that were actually published in the year 2009, but none of the ones that I had read were my favorites. So I'm going to kind of bend the interpretations of the question so that I can tell you guys what my favorite was. Okay, so number 2, what is your favorite book of 2009? Okay, that is another one I'm going to slightly bend the rules on because my favorite book that I read this year was actually published in 2018, and that is An Unwanted Guest by Shari Lapena. I have talked about this book numerous times. It was just so fantastic. It's a atmospheric thriller surrounding a inn where people who are strangers get stranded for the weekend and they start dying one by one, and naturally you're trying to figure out who's offing them, if it is a human, if it's a supernatural force, you don't know. But it was, oh my goodness, I listened to it on audiobook and it was so fantastic. I think I finished it in like 2 days, if anything, which is a lot considering that it was during the work week. Okay, so next question. What was your least favorite book in 2009? Oh boy. Talk about going down memory lane, because I remember at the time a book called Perfect Fifths by Megan McCafferty had come out, and it was the fifth and final book. I think it's final. Fifth and final book in the Jessica Darling series, which I was a huge fan of back in the day. It's a coming of age, I guess, YA story that follows a girl named Jessica as she goes through, I believe, high school and then eventually into college. And of course, there's like a guy that she's into. The plot is pretty simple as far as I remember, but I remember loving the series, and the fifth book was highly anticipated. Unfortunately, I remember that it let me down so much. I don't know if it was the build-up or just the fact that it ended up falling flat, but it just wasn't my favorite. So that was definitely a disappointment. Oh, but I will say overall, it was a good series. So if you're interested in young adult or that genre of coming of age, then I wouldn't discount it altogether. It's just that that particular story just wasn't for me. Okay, number 4. What was your least favorite book in 2019? Okay, hopefully I don't spark any controversy when I say this, but my least favorite book was actually the only book that I DNF'd this year, and that is The Family Upstairs by Lisa Jewell. I had such high expectations for this book. There's a lot of book buzz going on about it. It seems like every book box that I have heard of had this as their book of the month. I started listening to it on audiobook and I couldn't finish. And I will say I did get over halfway through because I typically try and allow myself to get pretty far into the story to determine how I feel about it. And it was such a struggle. I don't want to rag on it too much. That's a different video or a different time or maybe a wrap-up video. But needless to say, I couldn't finish it and it was my least favorite book, which is unfortunate. And to be honest, I was thinking about maybe it was the fact that I was listening to it in audiobook, but the subject matter and the characters, they didn't resonate with me. So I don't even think reading it physically would have helped. So yikes. Okay. So next one, number 5. What is a book published in 2009 that you still want to read? Ooh, this was a fun one to remember because I actually still got the book on my shelf, if you guys can believe it, and that is Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies. One of my friends actually gifted it to me way back, obviously, but when it first came out, and I remember being super excited, she knew that I was into books, and bless her heart, she thought that, one, I love Jane Austen, and to be honest, if you guys saw my previous video where I was kind of confessing all of my bookish bad habits or authors who I've never read, Jane Austen was one of them. But anyway, I never ended up reading it, even though I was extremely interested. And with one of my kind of more recent goals being to read more classics, I think that would be an interesting pick to pick up because not only does it kind of check the box for being a classic, but it's like a funny twist on it. And I remember back in 2009, zombies and vampires are all the rage. So that was something that I was interested in, but it ended up getting bumped further and further down my TBR shelf. Okay, question number 6. What is a book published in 2019 you want to get to before 2020? Ninth House. I say that without hesitation because I was actually just at Barnes & Noble this past weekend and I was so close to picking it up. I actually did pick it up and carried it around with me in the bookstore, and I just wasn't ready to commit, I guess. I don't know what was going through my brain, but I immediately got buyer's remorse, as in the fact that I didn't buy it. I was feeling remorseful about that, so I have to rectify that before the end of the year is out. So I'll probably be hitting up the bookstore this weekend because I really want to read it. At first, I wasn't interested in it. I didn't care about the hype, but I came across a couple of thoughtful reviews, which, to be honest, I tried to stay away from, but it seems like it would be something that I'm interested in with the magic and the darker elements. So I gotta see for myself. Okay, next question. What is a genre you used to read a lot that you don't read as much anymore? So I'm going to actually have to say young adult. I still read young adult books, but in way less frequency than I used to. I don't have anything against young adult books, and I don't think the fact that I've gotten older is the reason that I don't read them. I think it's more so the plot lines that I've come across just haven't interested me anymore, as opposed to the other genres that I'm typically flocking to recently, like mystery and thriller. So that's not to say that I won't ever read a young adult. I have nothing against the genre. In fact, there are a couple of books on my TBR that are young adult. It's just I don't read them nearly as much as I used to. Okay, let's see. Number 8. What is a new genre you've discovered since 2009? Oh, okay, I love this one because I have discovered the cozy mystery genre, and I'll actually link a video that I did spotlighting cozy mysteries that feature bookish themes, and I can't remember what year I came across. It definitely wasn't 2009, but I love that genre so much, and when I came across it, it was just like a whole new world open for me when I saw just how many books and just how many subgenres are within that, and I love it. There's so much more for me to explore, which makes me even more excited. So the fact that they're also fairly quick reads, I like to disperse them between either heavier books or when I'm in a reading slump. I usually pick those up because they are fast for me to read. They're usually lighthearted and they're just fun all around. Okay, question 9. What is a reading or book habit that you're hoping to leave behind in this decade? So, like I mentioned, I actually have an entire video outlining my bookish bad habits that I confess to you all, but out of all of those, I would say I want to become better at reviewing books as I read them. What I typically will do is just breeze through books and I don't rate them, I don't review them, and it's frustrating because I will tend to forget what a book is about, and so when I see that I've read it before but I haven't rated it, I don't know if I liked it or not, and it's frustrating because it's hard for me to formulate an opinion or if it's even worth me rereading just so that I can remember. So I'm hoping to change that. I'm not going to hold myself down by forcing myself to write a thoughtful, super elongated review, but at the very least, some kind of rating and like a 1 to 2 sentence just so that I can get my thoughts out there. I definitely want to become better at doing. Okay, final question. What is a new reading goal or habit you want to create in the upcoming decade? Oh, I love this one. And my answer is probably not going to be super original, and that is reading outside of my comfort zone. It's so easy for me to fall into the trap of reading things that I like because obviously when I read, it's a form of escapism. And so naturally, I want to read books that I know I'm going to like. Unfortunately, that means that I will sometimes pigeonhole myself into reading only books in a certain genre or by a certain author, and I just don't want to do that because there's so many great books out there, so many great authors out there that are undiscovered, and luckily me being on BookTube or Bookstagram, I see so many books that I've never heard of that sound interesting that I may have otherwise not picked up. So I guess in that sense it's a good thing to sometimes have FOMO because at least that will help get me outside of my little bubble. So okay, 10 questions coming up for the end of a decade. Let me know in the comments below, answers to any of these, or if you have done this challenge, feel free to link it so that I can see your answers. We are coming up on the new year, so I'm excited for what 2020 holds. I've got a whole list compiled of books coming out that I am excited to get to. Some of them backlist, some of them recent. So I know it's going to be a good year all around. So that'll do it for today, and until next time, bye!